This is The Edge with Mark Thompson.
Welcome and Happy New Year. Again, I think I wished you Happy New Year last episode. You can never say it enough until that cutoff during the month when you can't say it at all because it's awkward. And we're close to that, but not quite yet. Great show, fun show. Start with Michael Shure. We'll break down everything that's going on with the shutdown. We recorded it hours before the presidential address, which provided no new information. As you know, there was really nothing either from the president or from the Democratic response, although the Democratic response visual was bizarre, wasn't it? With just Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi standing next to each other in this sort of like American Gothic kind of look. There was nothing new in the way of information. So everything we talk about, Michael and myself, I think is applicable and still very topical. No national emergency has been declared yet by the president, but that may be coming anyway. We talk about that, and then we're joined by the new voice of Donald Trump on Family Guy. He is Josh Robert Thompson. Always fun. And J. Elvis Weinstein, the brilliant, talented, and very funny, joins along with Josh Robert Thompson, and the two of them essentially rotisserie me for an hour. But we talk also about my trip to Asia, just concluded a trip to Southeast Asia. I talk a little bit about that. And Carl Gottlieb joins by phone. Carl, of course, the renowned comedy writer, the writer of the movie Jaws. He wrote The Jerk with Steve Martin, and he collaborated with Richard Pryor and other legends along the way to build a remarkable career. And in this case, we called on Carl to talk about Bob Einstein, who just died, the guy who played Super Dave Osborne and played on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and also Penny Marshall, who we learned Carl actually dated. So we'll talk to Carl about that, and we also segue into some other reflections as well. All right, that's it. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for going to our website, edge-show.com. You can leave us something through the PayPal link there. You can leave comments through email, actually. It's edgewithmarkthompson@gmail.com. And you can also, of course, if you're going to shop Amazon anyway, please go through our website, edge-show.com. Click on the Amazon link, which you'll find as you click on any episode. You'll see something that says shop Amazon or whatever. Click on that. We get a little piece of whatever you spend. We have no idea what you buy. We have no idea what you spend, but we get a little piece at the end of every month. It helps keep the lights on. Thank you for all of those people, and there have been a few, and we'll get into it maybe more next episode also, who've sent us money and been so supportive and been so kind with your words. And if you can share those words on iTunes where they ask you for comments, that helps keep us alive in the iTunes universe. So 5-star reviews or 5-star ratings and even a word or two in review is always helpful. That's it. Michael Shure and then Josh Robert Thompson and J. Elvis Weinstein join. Let's get started.
This is The Edge.
The advantage, it means.
Hey, look, I just spit on me for no reason.
That's horrible.
Is there some comfort in uncertainty, do you think?
You're a degenerate.
Because Australian Shepherds need action.
Wow. Yeah.
This is The Edge.
That's a self-loathing term that I use.
Oh, got it.
Edge-show.com. Edge-show.com. The hyphen is stupid. Edge-show.com.
Edge-show.com. You're listening to The Edge with Mark Thompson.
His first appearance of the new year, he has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He is our Michael Shure.
Hey, how are you? Welcome to 2019.
Wow.
A lot of good governor's elections this year.
This is not the big election year so much.
No, it isn't, but you know it's going to be because 2020 is already starting. Daily Kos has just released its first poll that they're going to be doing every 2 weeks. Elizabeth Warren's in Iowa. There's going to be a debate in June. There's a political forum in May, a big one. So I mean, 2019 is the new 2020.
Well, we can talk about how long the election cycle is and maybe another time, but just because you touched on Elizabeth Warren.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth Warren's in the race.
She is.
Let me just ask you this. You know, there was a lot of encouragement and feeling on the progressive end of the Democratic Party that last time she should have been in the race. Like, that was a better time for her. I don't know better or not. You can comment on that in a second. But, you know, Hillary Clinton, of course, was the real choice of the Democratic Party. Now, assess Warren as a candidate and also comment on that. Did she miss her time, as is now being said by some?
Okay, I'll go in reverse order. What people never, when they say, oh, that would have been the time for someone to run, X person to run, you don't know until you know who else is in the race. And because fundraising is such a big part of political elections and campaigns now, that Elizabeth Warren knew that it would have been a very, very difficult row to hoe as far as fundraising for her in a year that Hillary Clinton was running. She wasn't different enough, and the way that Bernie Sanders was, and the way also that Bernie Sanders didn't care. Whatever you think of Elizabeth Warren, she was a one-term senator who only knew a regular way of raising money for an election. Bernie Sanders had a way of doing it differently, and he was different. He was a male. He was from Vermont. He was a socialist. He was an independent. There was something much more different. She would have been too compared to Hillary Clinton and not contrasted enough. So I never think that. And the money thing is real. I mean, it was Dan Quayle's time to run in the year 2000 until George W. Bush decided he was going to run out of nowhere, and then that was the end of Dan Quayle's time because he couldn't raise $1 against George W. Bush, because all the Bush people who would have given money to Quayle, who were loyal to President 41, were of course going to give it to his son. So it really is a question of how the playing field shapes out, and it didn't shape out well for her last time. Now, as far as this year, it's hard to say. One advantage she has, and it's not an underrated advantage, is she's from Boston. She's from Massachusetts, which is next to New Hampshire and shares that media market. And until the calendar changes, that second primary in New Hampshire, winning it is huge. It doesn't mean you're going to be president, but it helps a lot. So that is an advantage. She's also hired 4 people in Iowa. Sanders' former state chair for the caucus, she hired someone from Clinton world, 2 people from Clinton world. She has real names and real people with real Iowa experience who are going to be there. Her candidacy is definitely serious, and it's bad for Bernie Sanders. Whatever the most progressive person you know would say, the most Bernie, it's bad for him because they are looking at that Venn diagram, and there is a lot of crossover in who would support Bernie and who would support Elizabeth Warren, and she's going to take a chunk of that. How big a chunk, I don't know, and I don't know if he's running or not yet. But it's bad for Sanders, and I think she's viable. She's also one of 2 people running for president right now, the other being Congressman John Delaney. So it's really early, but she did something good by getting in there early.
We can move on from Elizabeth Warren in a second, but one of the things that's interesting to me about the political debate and just conversation in this country in the new politics, which is just as ugly and as dug in as it has ever been in our lifetime,
right,
is that what you'd normally see as just basic politeness might accept some of the rhetoric that falls toward her, meaning the insults, this sort of unbridled, toxic rhetoric that is thrown the direction of Elizabeth Warren. I would be uncomfortable saying to any woman, much less on television.
Well,
yet it's sort of de rigueur.
Well, it's not new. I mean, Hillary Clinton was the first example and still the most glaring example of that. Elizabeth Warren, thus far in her first tour of Iowa, which took her to Des Moines, Sioux City, and one other place in Iowa, I forget, she mentioned Donald Trump's name just once. The word Trump was said by her once, clearly deliberately trying not to make this about Donald Trump by making it what she can do. That's an experiment. And that to me is a really interesting thing to see how that will work in a Democratic primary.
Yeah, I noticed that too, and I wonder if that is something that strategically could really carry the day,
right,
as they come after you.
It's a risk.
Just talk issues and you talk, I
mean, the Democrats won back 40 seats in the House by doing the opposite, by talking about Trump a lot.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but a lot of them did. And she's choosing not to for a reason. I'm curious if that works.
Yeah, and probably at this stage of things, that isn't a bad way to go, because the last thing you need is the distraction of the president throwing. And, he loves that, right? He'd rather be in a mud fight than do anything on policy. He doesn't care about policy.
Of course.
But let's just roll around to him now on this border wall situation. Right. He's closed down the government because he wants this border wall. In my judgment, and I think that if you talk to those who are knowledgeable either about border issues, about national security issues, about wall issues, about environmental issues, you realize the ridiculousness of a wall. It's absurd. It was a great talking point for him during the campaign. It might have summarized sort of a basic disposition that people spark to. But that aside, $5 billion to build a wall.
Well, also $5 billion doesn't pay for that wall. It's a $25 to $30 billion project. So it's all symbolic and it's all politics. And it's a president who is, and this idea that he wants this wall is more about playing to his base, holding people. I mean, even the way he's talking about steel barriers, who is he speaking to? He's speaking to Ohio. He's speaking to Pennsylvania. He's speaking to places where steel is still made. When he talks about the need for this wall, and he's talking to the people that he promised he would fight. So when he goes back on the trail, he can say, hey, listen, we didn't get the wall, but I tried. I tried like hell. I even shut the government down for you to get this wall. And they'll say, in his estimation, they'll say, thank you. I know you tried. It's those damn Democrats that stood in the way. The Democrats and a lot of Republicans, I think, are going to start realizing that stopping the government from functioning because of a wall is silly. And
Why? Well, you mentioned the Republicans. Give me both the practical and the political, if you will. Why has Republican leadership in the Senate been quiet?
Well, first of all, there are a couple of Republicans who have said that they want to vote against the shutdown. They want to reopen the government. Cory Gardner and Susan Collins specifically, both up in 2020, both in states that went for Hillary Clinton. So there's politics that's going on there. Mitch McConnell, it's different now in 2019. He only runs one House of Congress. So he has to stand his ground, not just with the president and for a president, but against the leadership in the House, which is something that he hasn't had to do for a while. And so I think that informs a little bit of this behavior. The other thing is that they're estimating that in order to get Republicans to support Republicans, you have to show support for something that was an issue that elected a Republican president. And that is, unfortunately, for a lot of people, the wall.
So this is very hard with Trump. I think you've actually pointed to high ground on his retreat, and it will likely be the only high ground he's got, which is I tried but couldn't do it. Yeah. I just don't know when that's going to happen. He seems committed to a real standoff.
Well,
here.
Here's the thing, and I think it's fair to tell this to the good audience of The Edge, that we are talking about this now ahead of the president's remarks. We can look back in hindsight. He's giving remarks to the nation tonight, which can be anticipated as I'm going to stand my ground, the government's going to stay shut down, we care about federal workers. It can go everywhere from there to I'm putting an emergency injunction in to pay for the wall as a national emergency. And if it comes to that, and they equate this to a national emergency, it will totally change the debate about how the wall is perceived and how border security is perceived. Because he will have a very difficult time getting Republicans to acquiesce to calling this a national emergency in that way, a lot of them, because they know that it's not. This president didn't come to America when the stock market came down 5.5% in one day and soothe the nation about that. He hasn't come to the nation to even talk about the pullout in Syria, which was a big announcement. He did it on Twitter. Yeah. So what I'm saying is there are many reasons and many ways that this president is doing this, but he is fixated on it because he knows that it is the only galvanizing thing he has left right now going into an election year. If he's lost immigration in the eyes, the way he sees immigration, the way his supporters see immigration, then he doesn't have much to go on. The jobs reports have been good, but they were consistent. There are ways that both sides can argue it. This is a campaign speech, and this is a campaign issue, and it's not going to go away in that regard. However, and it's become clear that this is his shutdown. If this is his shutdown and he's the only person who can erase it, he could even announce that he's going to erase the shutdown and take credit for letting America get back to work, but I tried. There are many different places and times that he can say, hey, I tried to his people. One of them is right now.
That's a really clearly made point on his route out. Last point on the effects. So we talked about this. It's funny, we haven't had this conversation. It's been, I think, 3 weeks since I've seen you, maybe.
Something like that.
Since before the first of the year and before the Christmas holidays. And we
were at the Edge Christmas party.
At the big Edge Christmas party. Yeah. We used to have a Christmas party for this show. We had all the guests who were ever on the show invited. And it was the coolest thing. We actually did a step and repeat. And maybe we'll do it again this year.
That would be great.
It's a lot of trouble to organize, but it was so much fun because you see this disparate guest list, right? All these different people. From Norman Lloyd, who's now 102 years old, the actor who worked with Alfred Hitchcock, to Elliot Gould came, and then you have political people who come by.
That's fantastic.
So it was really quite
really
fun.
Like, and I mean, I'm going to ask the audience here.
The audience
would you guys be happy about doing some kind of a Christmas party this year if we invited all of you?
Michael, please don't ask the audience to do things unless you're going to give me an advance.
I was trying. Did you see me, Ben? That was almost perfect.
In any case, I was speaking about the fact that we've been talking even from before the holidays about this shutdown and the effects. And you'll remember that I pointed to the national parks. And you've seen the national parks are getting trashed.
Of course they are.
I mean, it affects so many people in so many ways. But now we're seeing the ripple effects that might affect Social Security checks. It might affect food stamps. It might affect people who depend on the federal government for their livelihood beyond just working for the federal government.
Yeah. And listen, at the end of this month, people who get SNAP, who get food stamps, that's going to run out, and you don't want to be the president. If they say you own this shutdown, no matter how much Mike Pence says that's not the case, if the American people think this is Trump's shutdown, you don't want them blamed. He would argue, none of them support me anyway.
Well, what about that? It's like,
well,
I don't care about that. I don't think he does care about that.
Well, if this is just politics, then it doesn't matter. But we like to think the American president, whoever it is, cares a little bit about.
You may like to think that, but this is all about politics.
This is a very different presidency, obviously.
He sees it all as shirts and skins.
At the worst case of a president you don't like, taking SNAP funds away from Americans is not something that they want to do, even if they're opposed to the existence of the program.
I want to talk quickly about Syria and about the surprise announcement that we're pulling out of Afghanistan and Syria. I haven't had a chance to have you weigh in on that. You can argue, I think quite effectively, that America's military presence worldwide is too great and too pronounced.
Right.
And you could argue that there are reasons to get out of Afghanistan and Syria. I mean, that would be a conversation I'd love to have, maybe in a longer way another time. But I guess what I'm getting at is this is not only the action of removal, but the rhetoric that accompanied it seemed inconsistent with American positions. And it was suggested that there's sort of a back channel that Trump has to the Russians, sort of old school Russian worldview on this.
Yeah.
And because Trump is who he is, which is sort of regurgitating whatever the last thing he heard from somebody was, that the last person he talked to might have been someone with kind of an old Soviet Union kind of feel about the world, right? Because that Afghan were there to stop terrorism. Well, that was the argument that the old Soviet Union made to get into Afghanistan to begin with, which was an awful decision on their part, of course. But anyway, I've said a lot. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, I mean, listen, I think this president has a worldview that is not very mature in the literal sense of that word, that it hasn't had very much time to develop. He's not someone who ever concerned himself, other than as a businessman, with world politics and how countries and treaties and probably organizations interact with one another, and how important that is to the world getting along. And when it's broken, it matters, and when it isn't done in a classical way, it matters. So it's not surprising that there's this stagnation in the way we interact with the world right now because of this presidency.
So when he talks about these things, you're saying you can't expect a very complex understanding, or even in any way an understanding that respects those now world norms that we've become accustomed to respecting.
Right. And I'm not even making an argument that they need to be respected, but you have to come at not respecting them with a point of view that reasons that, right? I mean, just because they exist doesn't make them right? But if you come at it, as many scholars and many politicians and many candidates have done, and say this isn't right because of X, Y, and Z, the Cliff's Notes version of that politician is the politician who just says America first, because it's an express train to not having to have reasons why, and it sounds good to the people you need it to sound good to.
Well, look, you see this play out in now the Syrian withdrawal, that these last couple of days there have been remarks associated with, well, we're leaving Syria. We may not leave on a super fast train. We may leave on the local train. And by the way, when we leave, we're counting on you, Turkey, to protect the Kurds, which they want no part of.
Right.
I mean, and in fact, Erdogan he's blasted Bolton for that statement.
Of course.
So all of a sudden, the complexities are a little bit visible for even this administration.
I mean, it's like integrating the schools in the South with all deliberate speed, which is America's greatest oxymoron, right? I mean, deliberate speed,
right?
And it's the same thing. That's how you try and backtrack out of something that you have done that has been met with grudging, acceptance. But also it's wrong, right? I mean, the world has told him you cannot just do it this way. And even if he thinks he can, he doesn't know how to articulate that. And I can attack this president specifically for a lot of things personally, but this is not an attack against him. This was a mistake, and they have to figure out how to get around that mistake. I mean, the way it was done, I should say.
I want to let you go, but I also, I feel like I don't know what to finish with. Priyanka Chopra and Nick Jonas were seen holding hands. If you want to, do you know who Priyanka Chopra is?
I don't.
I didn't either, for the record. But I saw the headline. Then
Is she Deepak's daughter?
That would be such a cool story, but I think Chopra is quite a common Indian name. She was Miss World, 2000. I know that was the year that you missed the Miss World pageant.
It was 2000?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She is someone who is an actress. She was in Baywatch. She was in Quantico, which is an ABC series. So she's played a lot of stuff, both in Bollywood, I think, and she's made it over here. She aspired to studying aeronautical engineering.
Wow.
Yeah. And then she realized, hey, I'm incredibly beautiful.
Right.
And I don't need to
And so now she's no rocket scientist.
But she's worked with UNICEF and probably has done more with UNICEF as a goodwill ambassador there than the current administration, I would argue. Anyway, now she's with Nick Jonas, and they were spotted holding hands as they stepped off a flight in the Caribbean this week.
Oh, well, that's great.
That was big news.
If Nick Jonas were in the room right now, I wouldn't know who he is. But I do know that I knew that I would say, how's your brother? Because I know that he has a brother. It's the Jonas brothers.
That's right.
And I would, but I wouldn't know who he was.
I think they're married. I'm unclear, though, on the
Who's married? The Jonas brothers are married?
No, that would be also big news.
But so Nick Jonas is married, but was seen with Miss World. You know,
no. I think they're married, Nick Jonas and Miss World.
Oh.
Right now, there are people listening.
So why
to
is
this.
it controversial if they're holding hands in the Caribbean?
I don't know that it's controversial. I hang on a second.
Why are we doing this story?
Something that was on the Daily Mail, and I wanted to leave on a lighter note.
Well, you certainly have, but I still don't know why it's
Let me just see if
man seen with wife holding hands.
Yeah, she's married to him.
Okay.
So I don't know why we're doing it. You're right.
But
Look,
I'm glad we covered it. Listen.
Now I feel like we're the mainstream media.
No, but I mean, had we not covered it, the Edge audience would not have known that they were married.
Look, the important thing, I didn't know who she was, and you didn't either.
Right.
And maybe there are people listening who didn't know.
Well, I barely know who he is, apparently, because I didn't even know he was married, and I wouldn't know who he was if he was sitting here.
Well, you knew he was one of the Jonas brothers.
That's all I know, but I know the Smith brothers, too. They made cough drops, and I haven't seen them.
Can you name one of the Jonas brothers' hit songs?
Not a chance.
Really?
Not a chance.
Let's see. So Burnin' Up doesn't mean anything to you?
It doesn't. These are the Jonas brothers.
We got Burnin' Up. Can we do Burnin' Up? No,
I've never heard that. No, I know the brothers Johnson had Strawberry Letter.
Yeah.
The Everly brothers had Bye Bye Love.
The Jonas brothers, they broke up, as you know. I don't think anybody will forget where they were when they heard the news that the Jonas brothers were breaking up.
Right. How do brothers break up?
Well, as a band.
I see.
I'm sure they, although I'm sure it was preceded by some legitimate fighting.
Right, some sibling rivalry.
Anyway, somebody write us and fill us in on the other salient details of the Jonas brothers.
The other option that you could have is to not write us about this at all.
Michael, it is a delight always.
I'm glad to be here.
I am hoping that we have many fruitful and optimistic visits with you in the year ahead.
Yeah, the year 2019 is the year of The Edge.
Happy New Year. He is Michael Shure, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you also, and thanks for being here.
This is Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Mark Thompson is a huge loser. His show, weak, soft. But if you're interested in crap and you're a communist, you can go to edge-show.com. I don't recommend it. It's crap.
This is The Edge with Mark Thompson.
Now we're joined by Josh Robert Thompson and J. Elvis Weinstein. A quick note, there is a story that includes multiple uses of the F word. In fact, that's sort of the essence of the story. And so just caution those of you who listen to this podcast with kids in the car, or you don't want whomever to hear that language. It's very brief, but it's a blast of it. So you are warned.
I'm giving you
a mic check. Hello. Let me get Mark level just because I think I might jump into it today.
Oh my God! All right,
it's not so far from Tom Servo.
Josh Robert Thompson.
Yes, here I am.
Right.
Oh man, bringing you the hits. Mark T, J. Elvis W in the house. Oh, man. Someone give me a radio show.
You don't have time for a radio show.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of
It turns out I do.
It turns out I have nothing but. Okay?
Josh Robert Thompson, one of truly the most talented people on this planet, and I love having you here. And J. Elvis Weinstein, also talented in a different way. In a different way.
You hit the hyperbole ceiling on person number one, and
You're
boom.
right. There really is nowhere to go. You're right after that. But J. Elvis, I just returned from Asia, Southeast Asia.
Yes.
And
my stomping ground.
Josh Robert Thompson, I know, you're probably aware of J. Elvis Weinstein's work. He did a whole documentary film touring Asia with comics.
Yeah. I Need You to Kill.
I Need You to Kill.
I know.
Right.
Someone's on Twitter.
Please. Yeah. I retweet for fear of trouble later.
I actually on Twitter learned just today that Josh Robert Thompson is the voice of Donald Trump on Family Guy.
I was getting a preview upstairs. It's solid. It is solid. It's rock solid.
I'm very nervous because it was recorded like 8 months ago when I was just figuring out the Donald Trump. So I look forward to all of your comments.
Oh, great.
And tweets.
When is the episode?
It will be, is this airing now? What day is this?
Well, this will air soon. You're right. This will air probably within a week of this
Well, then you may have already seen it. It's either a week from now, or I hope you enjoyed the show.
I see. Well, there you go.
It's next Sunday or the Sunday that just passed. You already saw it.
I feel like the last time you were here, which has now been like a couple of years even.
Yeah, it's been 5 years since I've been on.
Yeah, we're just working out a Trump.
Just starting it out.
Yeah, you notice some of his cadence and verbiage.
Everything is I do a very quiet version of Donald Trump. It's fantastic. So good to be here. J. Elvis, very talented, not as talented as Josh Robert Thompson. Very, very good, Mark T.
The quiet Trump, though, is what we're getting more of, I think, now.
Yeah,
because,
you bet.
Right? Because he's pinned in on some stuff and trying to
trying to look like he's in control.
Right, sound like he knows what he's talking about. Right.
The somber, I'm a good guy, mistakes were made. Gonna close down the government till I get my wall. I gotta go. Bye-bye. I'm sorry.
The wall is so senseless as a pitch. I mean, it makes no sense. It's a great campaign thing. You know what I mean? It really worked well for his base and to rally support. I get it. But now, I mean, as a practical matter, it's just ridiculous, right? You'd be better off pitching a ladder to the moon. You know what I mean?
Not a bad idea.
Same deal. I mean, it's going to be just as substantively
We're
helpful.
building a ladder to the moon.
For white people.
For white people only. Mexicans go behind the wall, white people ladder to the moon. It's going to be great. It folds out and it folds back and it's retractable.
My favorite part of the psychology political box that he's put himself in is because he can't say that we're failing at the border. Right. So he can only say we're doing a great job.
Right.
It's the first time the border's secure, but it's also a crisis of massive proportions.
Right.
They're overrunning us.
Yeah, and the whole idea of using the military as a political prop, which was done, it's almost forgotten now, but that he sent the military to the border, remember, for the caravan?
Right.
And that was ridiculous. There was no threat by the caravan. We all knew there wasn't a threat, but you're going to let the president send almost 6,000 troops down there.
Sure.
Just as a political prop.
Well, he's doing something. Look what he did. He sent them troops down there to get them 12 people.
They sold that on
Turns out 6,000 troops can't stop a blue wave, baby.
So,
wow.
This is wild, though. I never thought that he'd stop this government down for as long as he has.
In a weird way, I'm happy because I owe a lot of money to the IRS, and I tried getting a hold of him. There's nobody there.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's peace of mind.
So I feel like I got to say, I want to thank the guy for what he's done for me personally.
I see.
And I hope it stays closed. I could get a couple gigs going. It's the new year. Things slow down in December, but now we're in January. So maybe March start it up again. Josh, I've taken what you've said under consideration. You will receive a gold ladder to the moon that you can sell. Gold is up, bullion is down. Isn't that the same? I don't know.
Yeah. The world of Josh Robert Thompson. Now, are you still doing the Facebook or
when
not?
You said the world of Josh Robert Thompson. I just thought about me in my boxers in the middle of the day, light and shadow, the curtains drawn.
I went straight to Rich Tapestry.
Did you? Rich Tapestry?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just thought about you rocking back and forth. The phone will ring soon.
But you dumped.
But you did so many voices.
The phone will ring soon.
The phone will ring soon.
I saw you doing Morgan Freeman on Family Guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I got to say my own name.
That's right. That's right.
They wrote that into the script. This was not me. Lest anybody think I went in there and said, I would finally like my name in one of these scripts. They wrote it in there. Morgan Freeman is narrating something. Actually, Morgan Freeman is narrating Chris, the son on the show, masturbating out in the parking lot in the car.
Oh.
And then I said, my name is Josh Robert Thompson, and I perform for scale. And they wrote that into the script.
That's great. That's really
and
great.
it actually aired, so I was surprised that even happened.
It's very, very cool.
And then my mom said, very lovely woman, very sweet woman. I love my mother, but she said, so what now? What do you do now with that? They said your name. Now, where do you go from there? What's next?
This is
nothing.
Cash that baby in, baby. The fact that my mom was watching.
What's that, Mom?
Pretty much.
I can't hear you.
Yeah.
The wind's blowing through my Ferrari.
I was just
so
saying.
loudly.
Or then other people, the sky's the limit now. You said your name on Family Guy. I bet doors are open and all over show business. No, I think like 5 people knew about it. No, it was great. I was very honored by that, and having a great time over there.
And it's a great credit that will lead to things.
It is. It actually is amazing that any voice actor in an animated show gets to say their own name during the show. That's unheard of.
Yeah, it is true.
Unless it's a celebrity playing themselves.
Yeah, well, then there's that. And then, thanks.
My dad does what your mom does, but here's how he does it.
Oh, yeah.
He goes, so they liked you at Family Guy? They liked you over there? That means, are they going to use you more? What's going to... I go, yeah, well, they like...
You didn't fuck this up, did you, Mark?
They liked me. They liked me, but they're really high on you over there. Is that right? Well, I mean, they liked the job I did. It doesn't mean they're going to call me back next week to play a regular character.
I got one even better for you. I was at my grandfather's funeral last year, about September. He was 91. Very incredible man. I went to the funeral, and his wife, his third wife, came up to me and said at the funeral, well, Don just wanted you to just keep at it. Someday something will take. And I just thought, there's nothing I can say here except for God bless.
Right.
Thank you so much.
It's a very tough room at that point. Yeah.
I'm getting taken down.
He
at
never
a man's
understood
funeral.
what you did, but he was so proud of you for trying.
He didn't care for your blue language. He took me aside once at his own birthday, his 90th birthday party, said, I want to talk to you for a minute. I don't care for that blue language that you use. Try to clean it up. Like Milton Berle or Skelton. Okay. Those guys were all abusive drunks. All right. Take care.
I actually got a personal Don't Work Blue lecture from Red Skelton himself.
You
once.
did?
I did, yes.
I seem to remember you telling me this.
Yeah, he told the story on the air.
Okay, then I won't.
Maybe I already told this story.
Cycle back, super fans.
I think I told this story, and now you're saying the same thing.
No, you can tell it again. It's a good story.
It's
La Crosse,
amazing.
Wisconsin.
Because he came, I think, as I recall, he actually came to the club.
Well, no, they warned me at the show.
Oh, that was it, yeah.
Don't swear because Red Skelton might come in, which sounded like some drug hallucination they were having. But he didn't come in, but I met him in the lobby, and he asked, I hope you're not working blue.
So he was making sure he hadn't
He was
seen
making
it.
sure.
But
Yes.
I
He
hope.
didn't scold me.
Now I want to make sure.
He was pre-scolding me.
It's weird. I mean, to be fair, it must be odd.
By the way, I had no ability to not swear at that time in my career.
Which is still oddly the same circumstance we find ourselves in every week. Yeah,
that's true.
He was a legend, though. Red Skelton was a legend, but at a time when you couldn't be a legend and work blue, at least on broadcast, right? There are plenty of. I mean, Red Fox made a huge career as a party comic, right?
Yeah, Johnny was working blue, and I would
in the live.
Sometimes I'd do a live and drop an F-bomb or something like that. I hope that you fellows aren't working blue. I hope
not anymore.
Josh is the bluest.
I am very blue. I do work blue.
Yeah,
Mark, you've been a broadcaster for 40 fucking years.
It's been beat out of me.
Mark.
It's been beat out of me. Yeah. Actually, if you subscribe to this podcast, which is called The Edge with Mark Thompson, and you subscribe to it, it'll load into your phone. And several listeners sent me this screenshot. It is Bill Burr's podcast that comes into your phone, and it comes in as our podcast, as this one. Right?
Perfect.
Yeah. And you're saying, well, how does that have anything to do with Working Blue? Well, because when you listen to Bill Burr, right away, I mean, the first sentence is, well, this is another fucking show.
Yeah.
And I can't fucking believe that this New Year's
fucking. I don't know, my fucking, I don't know, fuck.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Welcome
just,
to the show.
It's just fuck. And I mean, so you just know right out of the chute, as you say, that it's not this show. We let them fly, but we're not gonna, there's not a Gatling gun of F-bombs coming.
In for it,
right, exactly.
Generally.
No, you do not.
Oh, Mark, I couldn't help but notice that I went to load your show into my phone, as you say. I was loading it into my device. And this foul...
It was like a fuck pinata.
Oh, God, this ginger man. Oh, God. Oh.
The thing that's best about Josh Robert Thompson, but you don't get it as much anymore because your success has taken
tapered off.
No, your success has taken the edge off of your rants and your, like, when people are trying to give you advice on your career and your bits. I mean, but that was always...
Was that success? That's
no, hang on a second. That was always a little bit theater and a little bit real.
It was mostly theater and a little bit real.
Right.
However, the way that things are now, you're right.
You've gotten too happy, fat and happy.
Well, you have to pretend. I'm not fat. I'm neither fat nor happy. Both of you can confirm that in this room right now.
That's true.
But
he's neither.
You have to sort of pretend like you are on social media.
Oh, I see.
I find that more people gravitate
I'm in
toward
a rickshaw in Saigon.
That's right.
For example.
Wait a minute. That sounds like Mark Thompson's Instagram.
I had a great 2-week vacation. I try to share it with people, and all you kids do is make fun of me.
I'm taking a sitz bath in Vietnam. Help, I'm trapped in a Cambodian prison. Mark D.
I'll have you know that there are many people who appreciate my sharing these experiences.
It's beautiful. It just makes me feel less than about my life.
Well, then it's worked. Yeah.
I think it motivated me in many ways to jump in front of a bus or a rickshaw.
A rickshaw.
Thank you.
One of the things that's weird about social media is when you're doing that stuff, like for humor's sake, sometimes I'll play the part of like the ugly American, like, like I'll pretend as though, okay, folks, everything's good here. The Americans have arrived or whatever. I mean, I don't say that, but something along those lines, as though I'm the elite aristocratic traveler.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
I just thought you were actually being that way.
No, and of course I try to be super like the nice American. I overtake.
Welcome to the Colonialist Chronicles.
Right, no, exactly. I don't want to be that guy. So I say hello. I'm still like, it's carried over. The Laotian way to greet you is this hands together. It's like a little tie thing almost, and a bow, and you say thank you, or when you say I'm sorry, you do the same goodbye, and it's carried over. And so every time I saw anybody there in Laos or Cambodia, I did that thing because I didn't want them to think like, hey, I'm just the American. I don't do that shit.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of disingenuous creeps who do that in L.A.
Oh, really?
So.
Really? Okay, well, and now I'm one of them.
Namaste-ing you back.
God.
Yeah. Oh, that's namaste, of course. Yeah, you're right. But I try to come in soft, but then on social media, I come in loud because that's funnier, so.
Well, either way, your stories and your posts have been muted by me, so. No, that's not true. I've muted so many people.
I have no idea what you're talking about because I haven't seen it.
Exactly. Fellow actors who are working nonstop, like, hey guys, I'm in the voice booth again today. I'm at Warner Brothers today. Oh my God, guys, another great day at Paramount working on another series. Mute.
Yeah.
Happy for you, love you, don't want to see it. I'm in my world of shadows and drawn curtains. Oh. All right? And I got time for it. There's a little rant for you, Grandma.
I love that.
I love that. I'm so proud of you. What's your name again?
Just stay at it, Josh.
See, it's harder with both. You guys are voice guys, so it's a tougher gig because you do actually know that you should have that gig.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Whereas, like when I used to do auditions and stuff, it's like, oh, and I'd see the part, I go, yeah, he's better than me.
Yeah, but you could just as easily see it and go, I could have done that. I'll tell you what I do. JRT, like, he does a whole other universe of stuff in addition to what I do. But I do like commercial and promo, so I get a chance to.
But you're both pros. You're both in the league.
You'll read these auditions though. I wonder if you have this experience. And then usually around big sporting events, that's when I'm seeing every spot go by. Because normally you'll flip by spots. So when you're watching a big sporting event, you see every spot, every voiceover, and everything you read for.
Everything you read for.
It's like a parade of failure.
Every single thing. You go, that's what they picked?
Yeah, exactly.
I could have done that.
Right.
You know, you don't want to become that guy, but
Yeah.
sometimes
no,
you
you're
go,
going, why is he punching that word? That makes no sense.
That's
Was there
right.
anybody listening to his...
I'll do.
Who in the world says in July?
That's right.
Show me the universe where in July.
No, because you will then do I will do the voice out loud that they're doing, and if someone's in the room, I'll say, "See, I did it. I can do that."
The magical world of Harry Potter.
See, nothing to it. Why is he getting it? But now I'm fun to be around. No, it's true. Social media. I'm doing very well though, just ignoring all of that stuff and just getting back to making things and not worrying about it because it's all noise.
You have something else going, which is that you create these scenes, shows, stuff with puppetry and with cinematic vision. I've seen the work, the show you did. It's brilliant. It's this hybrid thing. It's Mr. Rogers and Dean Martin, and it's just and really funny and raw and like wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong.
Yeah, and no, but it's great. And you're George Lucas and all the rest. So you've done a lot. So you're happy splashing around in that until whatever happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to become very bitter and disillusioned very quickly. It's very easy in this business because my then manager said, nobody wants puppets. Nobody wants a foul-mouthed talking raccoon. There's a show on Netflix with a puppet raccoon that's a foul-mouthed talking raccoon. Great. Nobody wants televangelists. That's not popular. Middle America's going to hate you. Danny McBride has a new show coming to HBO with John Goodman about a televangelist family, right? Nobody wants R-rated puppets. The Puppet Land Murders, whatever that movie's called, came out. It bombed, so maybe nobody does want the foul. Maybe that's true.
Yeah, take that out of the
maybe
rant.
that's exactly. But I mean,
sounds like the manager's just finding roots to the word no.
That's what it means. You can't get stuck on it. Now I do my Reverend Apostle BG character, a brand new revamped show, which I love so much. I run the whole thing myself. It's like old public access TV. I roll in commercials. I got credits. I take phone calls. Green screen with different backgrounds. I do it all live every week on YouTube, and it's going very well.
Oh, that's cool. I see you mention that it's coming up, and usually I'm unable to check it out at that moment.
That's about what I hear.
I'm in a,
You're on a rickshaw.
Exactly.
Heading to a
I'm traveling somewhere.
In the middle of a...
But
something.
If I were free, yeah.
I understand. But there are replays, Mark.
That's the point I was just getting to. So if I wanted to see it after you've done it live, where would I see? That's on your YouTube channel.
You go to my YouTube channel, The JRT Show.
Yeah.
THE-JRT Show, your one-stop shop for confusing broadcasts.
And that's really where you do the lion's share of your work now. You've stopped the Facebook Live.
Yeah, come on, let's be honest.
You do Periscope once in a while just to like promote the YouTube thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll come on as the preacher. Guys, I'm going live in 5 minutes. Bye. I will just, that is all they get now. But nobody wants to go on Facebook. No one. Nobody wants to go to Facebook.
It's true though, right?
I
don't want to. When I see Facebook link on Twitter,
Facebook.
I don't. Yeah.
You didn't join Facebook.
No, I never did.
So, but I mean, now it has an even worse reputation than it ever has before.
Yeah.
And I say, hey guys, I'm going to be on Facebook Live. And they're, oh God. Why? People can see my real name. That's the other thing. It's the anonymity.
No, it's true.
So-
It changes the rhythm when everybody knows exactly who you are.
Right.
And they can go back and go, oh, I see. He works at
It's nice that he makes these shows.
Yeah. That's
They
how I
like you.
feel,
They
though.
like you at Facebook Live, do they? Do they like you there?
That's nice. Now, what do you do with that then? Is it like your little plays that you're doing?
Let's call Carl.
Let's call Carl.
That was my favorite 50s sitcom.
It is so short lived.
Feels like something should have happened by now. Oh, there, something did happen.
Hello.
Carl Gottlieb.
Yes, sir.
Mark Thompson here. How are you?
I am well, thank you. And yourself?
I'm well. I'm here with J. Elvis Weinstein, with whom you've had a conversation on this show once before.
Hi.
Hello.
And then there's another producer, comedian, and writer himself, Josh Robert Thompson here.
Huh.
Hello,
Well,
Mr. Gottlieb.
What an extraordinary collection.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
A lot of
It's
names.
Quite a menagerie.
Carl Gottlieb, no slouch, gentlemen.
I know.
Yeah. The book you wrote on filmmaking is really, I feel like, was it Soderbergh who said that he actually referred to it constantly when, Carl, help me with that.
I don't have it in front of me, but there are blurbs from, I think Bryan Singer called it a little filmmaker's Bible. Steve Soderbergh commented very favorably on it. A lot of people took inspiration from it. And basically the next generation of filmmakers read it and said, hey, I want to direct too.
Yeah, it's nice to be celebrated that way from guys who had such distinguished distinguished careers. But anyway, of course, Carl wrote Jaws, and he wrote The Jerk with Steve Martin, and so active, palling around with Steve Martin in the old Smothers Brothers days. And among those people you were palling around with, Bob Einstein, who just died.
Bob was kind of a really unique talent. He had this, this odd, squeaky voice that came out of this husky, athletic build, which was always kind of jarring to hear that voice coming out of him. And he had great ideas. I think Officer Judy was his idea. Big motorcycle cop who pulls Liberace over for speeding because Liberace's playing the minute waltz in 52 seconds.
Right.
And then he played that character for a while. Then he came upon the character of Super Dave Osborne. I think that started as a sketch on one of the shows he was writing. I don't know.
It was Biner.
Yeah, John Biner's show.
One of those. And he did that for 2 or 3 years on his own show, just, consistently being, he had this, mythical stunt complex and, hazardous driving course, where he lived and practiced and did these stunts where he would inevitably wind up crushed, mangled. There was one where he went through a car crusher and there was a big cube of metal, with like his sleeve sticking out of it.
Oh, right.
Saying, I didn't think this went so well. It was.
Yeah, and that struck me. It's funny that you mentioned that. Of course, that was a franchise, but that easily could have just been a one-off or a repetitive sketch that was sort of visited once in a while in a variety show. To flesh that out and make it a regular show with characters, he had the Asian guy with the clipboard, and
Yeah.
I mean, he had his team, and then it turned it into an animated series. I mean, he really made that something which I think it didn't, by definition, necessarily lead its way to.
Yeah, he would work these things, and then of course when he got the Larry David show, he got that character on Larry David. He because he was a good improviser and could do essentially funny stuff off anything that was fed to him, or even original content, he would do it, and he was always the aggrieved neighbor, father, friend, and Larry David would inevitably lie to him or take advantage of him or do something offensive to him, and he would, appear in high dudgeon and complain. He was, he's a great character, lovely guy, and in person, as sweet as you could be.
Did he have a background as a performer, or was it all born out of writing room stuff taken to the stage?
I think he did some radio sketches. There's 3 brothers. I mean, one of his brothers is Albert Brooks.
Right.
And his other brother is a guy named Cliff Einstein, who's a very high-placed creative executive at a major ad agency. He's still in the ad business, I think. And his father was an entertainer. His father was a famous radio personality who was a regular on the Fred Allen show and then had his own show for a while and was famous for being one of those people who died while performing. I think Harry Einstein was doing a roast at the Friars Club and keeled over.
Yeah,
after he finished the introduction. I think it was a roast of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz at the Friars Club, and he finished his bit and then collapsed and died.
He did. I recently heard a recording of his bit before he died, and he did in fact kill. He really killed that night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always good to go out on a great laugh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but it's not really fun to go out.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but we're still
going to go out.
We're still
this
talking.
material is so good, I want to die after it.
Yeah, but we're still talking about a vaudevillian 60 years later. So.
Yeah, so there is something.
Yeah. When you're doing the Smothers Brothers thing, and it was Steve Martin and you and him and others, of course, but I'm just wondering, is that you guys bouncing stuff off of each other? Like, what do you think of this character? Or what's
No, it was your classic writer's room with 6 or 8 or 10 guys, pitching and. The head writer saying, okay, you 2 guys go off and write that, you go write that. Bob, do you want to play the officer, or do you want to just, have somebody else do it? I think if you were, plucked up in a time machine and dropped into that writer's room, except for some topical references and some haircuts and wide lapels, you could be over Saturday Night Live, Thursday, doing the same thing.
Right. I just saw a photo of you and Steve Martin and Bob Einstein and David Steinberg. Was that working for Steinberg?
No, that was, I think that was for this other show.
Oh, okay.
Steinberg was a frequent guest.
Did you work with Penny Marshall?
Yes, I dated her, too.
Oh.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Sorry.
That hurt. One of my first or second jobs in professional show business was on a Belson and Marshall show that they had created It was called Hey Landlord. It was a series with Sandy Barron and Will Hutchins, if you can remember such a thing.
I've heard the title before.
And that's Gary Marshall in that case,
Gary,
right?
her brother. So I knew Gary, and then through Gary I met Penny, and Penny was young and pretty and enthusiastic, and
you were young and pretty and enthusiastic.
Yes, and she was one of the few women around who was not interested in rock musicians, but thought funny guys were worth dating.
Right, she married Rob Reiner.
Yes. Yes, and their house was like a regular salon where just everybody in the world would drop by and be funny. That's where Michael McKean and David Lander debuted their characters that later became Lenny and Squiggy on Laverne and Shirley. It was at a party, just a pool party out at the Reiners, Rob and Penny's house, and Gary was there and a lot of other people. And somebody said to McKean, I think, Don't you and didn't you and David do this thing at Carnegie Tech? I saw you guys do these characters, Lenny and Anthony, and they said and they did Lenny and Anthony, and that evolved into Lenny and Squiggy, and a long-running part of the show. Yeah,
and then of course her part. I mean, she stepped in first as a performer, right? I mean, that was her. She was an actor, and I think Gary used her in The Odd Couple.
Yeah, she was a regular.
Where she played Myrna Turner, a very funny assistant, I think, to the Jack Klugman character. And the third sibling, Ronnie Hallen, who was a casting director. So, everybody knew everybody, and everybody worked, and everybody threw work to each other. And it was a great sense of community, which I sadly miss these days.
The evolution of her career, of course, included, directing some of the biggest movies. What was your relationship through time as she began to build this other part of her life?
Well, I just, an enthusiastic pal. We'd see each other at parties and hang out whenever we could. She and Rob had a, kind of an unpleasant divorce, but, everybody stayed friends. I remember a couple of times when they got divorced, she was complaining because Rob had finished his job on All in the Family and was just starting Castle Rock Entertainment, which was in the red because they didn't have any hits. So he got spousal support because he was the lower earner of the couple.
Wow.
Oh, geez.
So
that reversed quickly, huh?
Yeah, and then there was this great moment, I think, when Stand By Me opened, either Stand By Me or A Few Good Men, I forget. But it was the same time that the League of Their Own opened. And in those days, if you were a writer, if you had a movie that was debuting in Westwood and in Hollywood Boulevard, you'd drive by the theater to see if there was a line. You'd ask the manager, how's it going? And Rob and Penny would run into each other, crisscrossing town, looking in on their shows.
Yeah, that was a fat time for both of them. I mean, they really
both... Oh, yeah, they were doing great stuff. And Big, which was, kind of the movie that broke Tom Hanks into the public eye. I mean, he had been on television, but Big was, great for him. There were 3 high-concept movies that year, switching bodies kind of a thing.
Right.
And the Big was like the third one to come out, and nobody had any hopes for it because the 2 others had come out and tanked. But Big, caught the public imagination in the way that nobody can predict and became the runaway hit.
Wasn't it 18 again and vice versa with
Probably.
Judge Reinhold?
Oh, that's great knowledge.
And the...
George Burns and Charlie Schlaughter.
That's right. Yeah.
For the cinema addicts out there, the archetype was Freaky Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
In which, if you want to see 2 of the best acting performances by women, watch Jodie Foster and Barbara Harris, especially when they switch, souls. When Barbara Harris is playing a 10-year or 12-year-old and Jodie Foster is playing the mom. It's extraordinary. I mean, you really believe it.
It's funny that Big was such a successful film. What are you smiling about?
No, I'm actually thinking about it. Carl he warped my young mind in 3 very profound ways. I've just been sitting here laughing, thinking about, I grew up in Cleveland. My mother took me to the Variety Theater, which was just down the street, 117th and Florian, this old theater. They had a poster for a movie called Caveman.
Yes, indeed.
And I begged her and pleaded with her to let me see this movie because of the stop-motion animated dinosaurs.
Sure.
And I was never the same after that. That film, did you direct a segment of Amazon Women on the Moon?
Yes, I did.
Which segment was that, Carl?
I directed several.
Yeah.
The one that's the key art, which is the Invisible Man.
Yes.
Yeah, I directed that one. I directed with the one where the Playboy nude is walking through life.
Right.
And I directed one that didn't make the final cut of the feature, but is on the DVD. Is Chekhov on Wings.
Yep. I've seen them all. And the Invisible Man one that's Ed Begley playing.
Ed Begley. Jr.,
yeah, and everyone can see him clearly, and he's walking around lifting up things and saying "ooh," and he's totally naked.
Yes.
That was the second film, but the third and maybe the greatest of all for me, and I just watched this recently in a beautiful 3D transfer on Blu-ray, is Jaws 3D. And this movie's all about Dennis Quaid and his short 80s shorts, his shorty shorts. That's what the whole movie's about. Was there a different ending for that film that you had written?
For Jaws 3D?
Yeah.
No. The problem was we had a very cheap producer because the studio had learned a lesson on Jaws 2 because that had been like a $29 million picture, and because everybody in the studio knew it was a sequel to a hit, and everybody just ganged up and charged everything to that production.
Yeah.
So they decided to outsource the production. So they did as I think negative pickup deal with Alan Landsberg Productions, and Alan Landsberg was a guy who was a thrifty producer.
I worked in his crappy building a couple times.
Oh, is that right?
and so Landsberg produced 3D, and the climactic shot, which is the shark swimming into the control center of the underground water complex, he wouldn't remake it when they came in from the effects house. So at the high tension moment of the movie, when this big shark is going to crash into the control room, it's moving with the same intensity and threat as the Goodyear blimp.
Yeah.
It's just, do.
It's beautiful. It's like a Godzilla movie. It's like a Godzilla-style production.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this movie a lot because Jurassic World came out a few years ago, which is essentially almost the same. The theme park is now open, and I kept thinking about Jaws 3D, and basically they were trying to make this massive budget film for $5.
Yeah.
And was it Joe Alves was the director?
Joe Alves was the director.
Right, he was a special.
And we shot it at SeaWorld in Orlando, Florida.
Right. And it's just, oh man, Simon McCorkindale and Lou Gossett Jr. chewing up every moment of scenery. Lou Gossett's like, there go my girls. All right. I mean, the whole movie is out of control.
Yeah.
I urge everyone to see it, Jaws 3D. But I wanted to say I never got to see it in 3D until recently. None of us did who were very young when it came out. What a joy to watch dolphins coming right at your face.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for that, Carl. I appreciate it.
Don't thank me, thank the dolphins.
All right.
Well, they're such smart creatures.
They negotiated back end.
Yeah, I hope so.
They got points.
When you're writing a 3D thing, does it change are you just looking for all those scenes where stuff's swimming at you?
No, that's the director and the producer's job and the effects people. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, the first wave of 3D movies, House of Wax.
House of Wax
and
had that great.
Moana Devil.
Yeah.
And in House of Wax,
paddleball.
The paddleball sequence.
Right.
Exactly, right. They go, what can we have come at the camera,
Yeah.
And it's
the only thing that sticks with you from House of Wax is the paddleball scene.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, it would be so great to see a 3D hardcore porn film.
Yes. Yeah, which they
I'm sure
tried.
they have them.
That was the first this year.
I don't know if they have them. I don't know if there's in the oeuvre. I mean, not that I'm an expert, but I don't think I've seen a 3D.
My dad claims to have seen one.
It turns out the raincoats were too expensive.
Is that what? I think James Cameron's been working on one for the last 4 years. That may be coming out soon. I don't know. But that was when Jaws 3D came out. That was when everybody was jumping on the bandwagon, and none of them made any money, except for maybe Friday the 13th Part 3. But there was Amityville 3 with Tony Roberts.
Hey, I'm in a haunted house. I'm Tony Roberts.
Love that movie. Brilliant.
Because everyone thought you had to wait until the third movie.
It's
of
true.
A
That's true.
franchise
Well,
to
wait
do
till the
3D.
third film, and then we'll really wow them with the 3 dimensions. And then it went away again, and then they brought it back, and then it went away again.
Well, 3D for home enjoyment, that is home entertainment in 3D, was also the big promise. And then what happened? They're not too many 3D shows, right? It was really going to be sports.
Yeah.
And then they just don't.
I think the problem is that people have too much trouble keeping the flat image separate from reality as it is to add that third dimension.
My dad has a lot of problems with his Apple TV, so I think the problem is people can't really turn these things on.
Yeah, the signal has to be pretty sophisticated.
Yeah.
You're doing those 2 images, and then, so do you wear the glasses at home?
Exactly.
Right. I feel like an a-hole when I sit there with my glasses on.
No one wants to wear anything.
I do, like by myself, sitting there going, I'm really enjoying this shark picture. Hey, look, ow, it almost got me. Yeah. Creature from the Black Lagoon, I have to say, real quick mention, Universal Studios, great 3D job on the Blu-ray.
Really?
Finally able to see that in 3D.
I've never seen it in 3D.
When the hand comes out of the water for the first time and that incredible music sting, that beautiful, oh my God, it's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really
I
good.
just saw a wonderful 3D movie that was cobbled together from 100-year-old archival footage.
Wow.
Which was not shot in 3D, but they made it into 3D. Peter Jackson documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old.
Sure.
Oh,
it's about World War I, was it? Or?
About World War I, and I
right.
saw it in 3D at the ArcLight, and it's stunning.
Wow.
It'll blow your mind. They've restored the footage, but to the proper frame rate as we know it today.
And then put in sound.
And it's just, you see how they look for real. It feels like it's not surreal motion.
Yeah,
it's as if they just shot it.
It looks, as it is,
It's
totally
beautiful.
documentary, and the colorization is perfect. And Peter Jackson appears at the beginning of the movie on screen and introduces it and says, if you're interested in how we did these effects, stay seated after the end of the movie and I'll be back. And then at the end, after the end credits, Peter Jackson reappears and then does 20 minutes with clips and showing you what the footage looked like before they enhanced it and how they did it.
Oh, I love it.
And there's no, I don't think there's any music on it except, period, people singing, on silent recordings.
Right.
And the soundtrack is the BBC had interviewed the survivors of the Great War all through the 50s and 60s and 70s while those guys were still alive. And that's all the movie is, real footage and real voices talking about real events. It's pretty great stuff.
I saw the trailer for it. I really now want to get to the theater to see it. And I also feel World War I is the forgotten war. Maybe it's alongside a couple other forgotten wars. I don't know that we talk a lot about the Korean War, but it was a devastating war.
Yeah.
And
well, more so for England than for anybody else. They lost a fucking generation in that war that cost them the empire. Like 2 million guys between 18 and 20 died.
Right.
So it was like it was everybody.
It's like Russia in World War II.
Exactly. And it's funny, the historical perspective. I'm doing a rewrite now on a movie that takes place during the Vietnamese War, during our adventure in Vietnam in the 60s. And that was a half century ago. And one of the points I'm going to make in the movie is that in the 60s, during Vietnam, World War I was also 50 years ago. So if you were a kid in the 60s, World War I was history. And if you're a kid in the millennium, in the new generation, Vietnam is a half 100 years. Vietnam, relates to today the same way 1918 relates to the Vietnam era.
that's wild, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It just gives you a weird insight into the continuity of history.
That's why I try to let up on kids when they don't know Beatles songs, when I realize, well, it was 50 years ago.
That's true. Yeah. You've never seen the Garbage Pail Kids movie? What's wrong with you kids? Well, that was in 87. Never mind.
You got any Beanie Babies? You want to trade?
I'll give you $5,000 for it.
Well, I wanted Carl just for a quick moment on Penny Marshall and Bob Einstein. But I knew we'd get to a couple of digressions that would be fun or interesting, not both, and that we got both. I'm going to excuse the witness, though, unless you have additional questions about any of his other work. All right.
You got a room full of fans. You got a room full of fans here, Carl.
Yeah.
In passing, take off my hat and hold it over my heart for both Bob and for Penny. They were good pals, and really annoying to see good pals leaving, as you will experience in time yourself.
It's also worth noting two people, older people, compared to a lot of people getting jobs in Hollywood now who still work rocking careers.
I think that slowed Penny up was, she was diagnosed with cancer about 6 years ago, and that slowed her down. She was in remission, but she used to say in that characteristic whine, she says, "I'm the only person in the world who got fat on chemo."
Carl, it's a room full of people who love you here, so hope to talk to you again soon.
All right, thanks for calling.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Carl.
What a career he's had. He worked with Richard Pryor, closely with Richard Pryor, writing stuff there.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff. Very good obscure knowledge from Josh Robert Thompson.
I was so excited to talk to him, man.
Yeah, on the segments that he directed.
Well, I had to. You messaged me about it. I'm like, what? Because those are big influences for me. They're silly. All three of those movies are very silly films, but Caveman in particular was just for the stop motion anime. And Ringo Starr's fantastic
And John
performance.
Matuszak.
And that's right.
Oh yeah.
Who wasn't Shelley Long in that as well? Yeah, great film.
And Barbara Bach.
And everybody's in the film. All right.
I did a television.
Jack Gilford.
Oh, Jack Gilford was in it?
Is that right?
I think
Was
so,
he?
Yes.
Think about the difference with Caveman, and then all those years later, they decided to do it again with Year One.
Right.
And neither of those films did very well.
And that was Ramis.
Right.
Didn't Ramis do a year one?
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. No one gets out a lot. No one gets out with a perfect record except for what's his face? Except for Fredo.
Oh yeah,
Jack Cassell's the only one who got out of
Oh,
showbiz
yeah.
with a perfect record.
Ah, you're right.
And he had to die at like 38 or whatever he was.
You should have brought that up at the end.
How did he? How did he die?
Cancer.
Wow, that just sucks.
Yeah.
5 for 5 though.
Is that right? He was in. He was
5
in
Deer
movies.
Hunter.
Each one. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Deer Hunter, Godfather.
Godfather 2, The Conversation, and what was the last? Dog Day Afternoon. Dog Day Afternoon.
He was in. Oh, he was the
He was Pacino's sidekick.
boyfriend or whatever. Yeah.
Sonny or Sal.
Wow.
He wasn't in Caveman?
He was not.
Okay. I was just making sure. He was one of the sharks in the Jaws 3D.
Little known fact. Look, I tried to work my Saigon rickshaw ride in.
No,
but I
we were
felt
pointing
it
We
at
was
all
you.
had the eye contact.
Well,
going,
it was
so.
a little moment.
He mentioned Vietnam.
Yeah, but it was.
I thought it'd be
Vietnam.
inappropriate because we're talking about death. And,
It was super.
Yeah.
It was the Great War, and Vietnam was. Mark here was on a rickshaw in Vietnam.
I just got back from Vietnam,
Yeah,
Carl. Hold that thought. Let me share some of my
He was
experiences.
a Vietnamese prison as a guy.
So it was a good trip, Mark?
It was a great trip, and I will tell you that I didn't necessarily. First of all, it's tough to get off the couch and go do something at the holidays. It was right before Christmas, and I like LA or Southern California during the holidays because everybody leaves. And one of the problems with living in Southern California is you can't get anywhere. It is clotted with cars everywhere you go. It sucks. But during the holidays, everybody leaves. It's a little easier to get around. So I'm reluctant to leave. But my girlfriend wanted to go, and this is the only time she had time off, and this is her bucket list trip. And you know what? After going, I see why. It was the greatest trip I've ever taken. Yeah. It was spectacular. It's a third world place in large measure in Laos and Cambodia.
Yeah.
And Vietnam is a mix of life. It's they have the motor scooters they have their own issues with traffic being clotted with these scooters and all the rest.
But lovely, friendly people, right?
Super friendly. And they love Americans, and there's none of that, because we know the Vietnam War so well and we know what we did to that part of the world. You have to take stock of that, and I tried to go to museums and to various exhibitions that were associated with that because I wanted to learn from their perspective what was going on. It really was so moving. God, it was really powerful. But they talk about it like it's history that they all recognize, but they're not embittered about it. Right. I mean, and seem to embrace Americans now and embrace the future. And they all, of course, want to come to America because it's it's the place where you can forge your own way. At least they have bought that bullshit anyway. So
I love the photos, the video of on Christmas. People driving around on their bikes with gifts and things.
Yeah,
it's some beautiful footage of that. It was funny, but it was also
it's
kind
true.
of fascinating.
People, first of all, Christmas is a Western holiday, so they don't celebrate it in any kind of organic way. That is to say, related to the culture in an organic way. But we've exported the magic of Christmas, and so many tourists go there who celebrate Christmas that they do celebrate it. So you see Christmas everywhere.
There's
you see
trees and Christmas trees.
That's fake snow, the sprayed snow on the windows, so on the commercial district. I mean, so there is absolutely every sense in every hotel and every shop and in many homes even that they celebrate Christmas the way we do here, even though they don't. Right. I mean, I think they're a Buddhist country, Vietnam, but it's not about that. It's about celebration and all this kind of thing. So it was fun. Amazing. It was really great.
And the New Year's celebration, obviously that's universal.
Check this out. I would have thought so too, because they're so big with the New Year's celebration. By then I was in a place called Siem Reap, which is in Cambodia. Huge, big city again, and huge celebration for Christmas and New Year. People come from around the world for this celebration, but they don't actually keep the calendar the way we do. The actual calendar, I think their New Year's in April, I think. That's what they were telling me. Okay. But they celebrate New Year because everybody else wants to celebrate it. So people come there for that celebration.
Same reason I, as a Jew, celebrate Christmas.
It's better example is same reason that Jews wrote Christmas songs, I suppose. You know what I mean? I mean, some of the best Christmas songs written by Jews who didn't celebrate.
Might as well. Everybody else is.
or it's just that there's demand, so maybe I can enhance the holiday with this.
But is there like one guy there going, this is in for 4 more months?
That was me.
That was you?
Me, yeah.
You're all a bunch of liars. I know how this works. I may be American, but I'm in tune with what goes on here with the people. I'm Mark T. Me a rickshaw. Need a bath.
I don't know what you were doing. No, it was beautiful.
My girlfriend hated the rickshaw thing, and I see why. Because she felt, I don't want some guy peddling me around. It's just too, I'm not comfortable with it.
It's colonial feeling.
Yeah, it's colonial feeling, exactly.
I have no problem with that whatsoever.
But
I love it.
Here's what I explained, and let me explain this to our audience of travelers as well. That guy makes no money. He is destitute, okay? He is dying for you to use his services, which are unfortunately limited. Right. They're limited to this little thing that he's found, which is pushing tourists around.
Yeah.
If you want to help him, do one of two things. Take that rickshaw ride, and as Josh says, tip well, or just give him money then.
Right.
But the idea of just walking past and going, oh, man, I don't feel comfortable at that because, I feel like a colonial asshole. That doesn't help him.
You can say that, though, but then tip him.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I feel like a colonial asshole.
If I give you $5, will you forgive me?
Certainly. Well, here you are, good man, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in 4 months. F you! Mark Thompson, making waves. Now, how long were you go? 2 weeks?
2 weeks, yeah.
Wow.
It's a long time.
It was pretty special.
I start getting nervous
That's
after 3 days.
That's a lot of Buddhist temples, I'll tell you that.
Man. I was in Hawaii for like 4 days, and I thought, I should probably get back home.
Oh, my
I'm
God.
probably missing work.
My wife and I were so bored in Hawaii.
Oh, where'd you go, Maui? Did you go to Maui?
Yeah.
That's where I went.
So bored.
Hey, let's go down to Lahaina Village and look at 50 paintings. All right, what next? Maybe eat some more fish. How about then? We should probably get out of here.
Okay, it's 1:00.
Yeah. I mean,
she had us up at 7:00. Well, I get up early anyway, and you got the time change, the jet lag. So I'm up at 5 a.m. But she had us at breakfast, meeting my girlfriend. Then she had a guide meeting us at 8 a.m. every day, meeting us, and now you're out and taking us to these cultural places and museums and art places, and so it was good, but I was kind of at the end going, can't we just hang at the hotel for like a couple hours? But
that's how Maui was. All right, now if you want to do the summit view of the sun in the morning,
we meet at 7.
3 a.m. You got to get up, and we'll drive you up there. What kind of vacation is this? The helicopter now it's $5,000 per person, but you get a nice view of the waterfall. You can't get to it otherwise.
Right.
So.
And then you're done by noon.
And then go back to your hotel and what? Have a Mai Tai and go to bed.
No, exactly. You're exhausted.
I mean, look.
And you have to because everything closes at 10.
I regret it because I really need that money to pay my taxes.
Then let's just hope the government stays closed for your
Everything's fine. Like I said, Josh, not till March. Merry Christmas.
I was on the big island of Hawaii, and I went to look at the helicopter ride places. Those places that are, there's one information desk, and then there are 2 helicopter places, and then there's 3 scuba diving places, and they're all next to each other.
Right.
So I'm kind of finalizing arrangements for the next day to fly right over the active volcano, which is really cool, by the way, because you can feel the heat of the volcano, and it's intense. I go, okay, well, think about that. Let me. And then this woman from across the way, she's at the information desk. She waves me over. I look down, and she has just written the word crash on this little pad of paper, and she points to the people I was talking to. I guess they had a crash within the last calendar year. And so she was trying to say, hey, those guys are sketchy. Yeah, you don't want to crash anywhere, but definitely not above a
But
volcano.
if you're going to go, if we've established if you're going to go out, 2 ways to go out. Die while telling jokes on stage, right? Or in the mouth of a volcano. These are the 2 best ways to go.
Gotta say,
you know what I mean?
If you're going, that's a very strong play.
Not a lot of time is going to, hey, what's going on? I think we're having a, oh, God. Over, done.
You think?
You get a little bit of time to look and see
how
where you're
long?
going.
How long do you think it'd take to die?
Well,
10, 15 seconds.
What depends?
That's a long time.
No,
Is that a long time?
no, I mean, I think once you hit it, it's pretty instant.
Yeah, I think
it has to eat through the helicopter first,
And then your body.
And
Oh,
then-
you're right.
yeah,
You're right.
so-
You're
But
right.
you'll be
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
So when you hit it, you're done.
I think when you hit it, yeah,
Yeah.
It's an almost
Well,
instant.
I mean, I think the amount.
I'm really concerned.
The endorphins that would rush through you as soon as you hit it, you wouldn't feel any pain for the maybe 10 more seconds you were alive.
Okay. God, 10 seconds is a long time, though. Anybody who's,
Not if you're in shock and
I
endorphin.
want
rush.
someone,
you're right.
before I go on stage at a comedy club, I want a woman to wave me over and have a piece of paper that says bomb on it.
It also shortens the trip because when you head to the light, it's you.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I like Josh just made me feel better about my
you
own
see?
horrible death
Come
in a volcano.
on. Hey, man,
It'll be
I
good.
did the
It'll
submarine.
be good. Come on, we'll bring the girls.
I did the submarine ride. I'm claustrophobic. I signed up like an asshole to go on the submarine.
Wow. How'd that go?
It was
I'll
awful,
tell you,
probably.
The first 5 minutes, I thought, I'm going to die on this submarine. Everyone else looking through the portal going, oh, look, there's a barracuda or something. And I'm thinking, how are all these people enjoying their lives right now? Breathe, stay calm, and everything's fine. Oh, there's a shipwreck. And then I was okay.
Oh, you just
Somehow
you
I
needed
got
a
through it.
distraction.
But
Yeah.
it was very scary for a moment.
Well, once you saw that someone had actually died, you went, oh,
Then I
that's not so
realized,
bad.
hey, those people died. And they were on that ship.
If only Josh had been around to make those people feel better.
I had
about
an
their
MRI.
days.
I had an MRI yesterday. That's
Oh,
my
yeah.
claustrophobic
Good
story.
for you.
So,
Oh,
thank
God,
you.
yeah.
I love those. God damn
But
it.
they have those glasses now where you can see the person in the
Yeah.
waiting area. They've taken a lot of the edge
That
off it.
helps a
Back in the
little.
old days when Daddy used to have to take them,
Yeah.
that was not fun, man.
No.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you had it much worse, Mark. Yeah.
Yeah.
You took all the steam out of my little story.
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh, you
is
had
it-
a whole MRI story? I don't know.
Yeah, it's okay.
You had something prepared?
I love your MRI chunk.
I got medical stories for the whole. I can do a whole album.
When you go in,
Now, are you clear, though?
Well, this was a back-related MRI. 'cause I
Oh,
just
that's
had
right. You just got
surgery.
back surgery. Yeah, Josh did too.
But it's 5 years today that I had the cancer surgery.
Hmm.
So
And so you're and
So hopefully I'm
and you
5
feel
years
good. Yeah.
he doesn't want. He doesn't really.
I didn't
care.
know it was just 5 years ago.
I do care. I do. That's why I'm asking. I mean, I'll cut this shit out, but I care
Yeah,
personally.
this is not.
The
This
audience
is all
doesn't care.
unusable.
Yeah. What is the deal on your back? Are you feeling better?
I'm feeling better from the surgery. It didn't solve my problem yet.
Was your
So,
problem pain down the leg?
Yeah, it's nerve issues.
That's weird because I mean, as I think we've talked about, it's usually pretty successful statistically in treating that.
Yeah, so didn't. Well, I just got. That's what the MRI was to see what's going on. So it could just be because it was crimped for 10 years.
Oh, I
that
see.
it's
It just
taking
takes
a while
time
to come back.
Oh.
But it could be that they got to do another surgery and go in through the front.
Oh, God.
I had a double hernia surgery last year. You guys
Nice.
want to talk about that? For a
I do
minute?
always. I'm a
It
Jew.
was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyed that.
Well, how did they go in from the front on that?
They go in, yeah. They
Yeah.
go in from the front. You know. You're up probably in stirrups. I think you're out.
You're
but,
out,
You know,
right,
they're really rooting around there.
Yeah.
They
This
have-
really big, handsome Australian doctor too.
Hmm.
My mother was quite taken by him. Hey, Josh, we're gonna root around down there in your undercarriage there, mate. You're just gonna go to work. About 10, 20 minutes, we'll get you right in there, mate. Guy was fantastic. Didn't solve my problem though.
Wow.
I hate that.
Still have something going on there. But the side effect was very long testicles.
Wow. Wow. That seems.
I don't know if that's aging because I'm only 43.
Yeah, that seems a little
I think
early
my
for.
testicles should be that long.
I don't think so.
But
Hey, Josh, why the long testicles?
see, I mean,
Was that listed as a side effect in any of the literature?
you know, there was some question about it.
Was there?
Josh, I've never had that happen, mate. I don't know. Well, maybe get a second opinion there, mate. So yeah, thanks for the long balls, and appreciate it.
By the way, among the things you never want to hear a doctor say is, I've never had that happen
I've never
before.
had that happen. Yeah. Huh. But they go, Well, it's not common, but it can happen. That means it's never happened before.
Right.
It only happened to you.
You blew it somehow because I'm
That's-
perfect.
I love the idea that he describes his activity as rooting around down there.
Yeah. And he'd done like 3 already that morning. And it was like 7 a.m. And I'm like, when do you sleep?
Oof.
Oh, I haven't slept for a week, Mike. Here we go. What? It was amazing. They used like a robot thing, and it was laparoscopic. It was the whole thing.
They got it down.
Getting old is weird. This is what it is now, I guess. We got pains in our leg, and I'm having my balls are hanging on my knees, and
I feel like
Mark's in a rickshaw.
I feel like aging. You can always get that guy to push you around in
I
a rickshaw if you
understand.
need it.
Yeah.
I feel like the aging process is really sudden. I know it's going on slowly on a cellular level that we don't notice, but I feel like it's sudden. Like you'll wake up and all of a sudden your knee's gone out, or now you've got a bad shoulder and it's never going to get good. It was just something you slept weird or something.
Where'd this come from? Right.
This is what happens.
My right knee started clicking the other day. It was
Because it was raining.
That's it. Like, at my parents' house, walking up the steps. What the hell's that noise? Is it? Oh, it's my knee. Well, and then I just said, well, I'll make note of that for some other time. And
Yeah, then you're thinking, well, like that'll go away. No, guess what? It's not going to go away. You're going to have to
That's my new sound.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Hey, Josh is coming.
I don't know. I love Josh Robert Thompson. I love J. Elvis Weinstein. It's our first show of the new year.
Despite our disparity in talent.
Yeah. Well, Josh, you're leaving and go doing a movie, or what are you doing?
I am co-starring in a movie, Mark.
What is the movie?
It's called The Fiddling Horse.
God, can I get Carl back on the line and tell him?
Is it in 3D? Is it a porno?
J. Elvis.
The best.
J. Elvis is starring in the first 3D porn film of 2019.
Yeah, don't be shy. Tell him, J. Elvis. So what is the film?
It's comedy, a low-budget comedy, obviously because it has me as a lead.
Thank God.
You and Andy Kindler?
Andy Kindler is another one. We aren't like it's not like a buddy comedy.
Right.
He's actually the pain in my ass in the movie.
I see.
Which mirrors life.
Are you? You're a protagonist?
I am the protagonist for the most part.
Wow.
My girlfriend in the movie and I are the protagonists. Yeah.
Huh.
It's weird.
I'm excited.
really
It's
cool,
a bizarre.
man.
It was a bizarro thing to fall out of the sky. I was supposed to play a cameo in the movie,
Right.
and then I was supposed to have back surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, hey, because he was having some scheduling issues. I said, hey, I got to have back surgery, so if you need to drop me, drop me. He's like, well, actually, quite the opposite. I would like you to play the lead.
Sometimes you see, Josh Robert Thompson, you have to say no. You want to drop me, go ahead. And they go, no. We want to make you a series regular.
No,
Yeah.
that works for me all the time.
Well, my
you know
response
what? I don't think so.
And by the way, my response was, I don't think you do.
Yeah, I don't, he doubled down on that. No, I really don't think that your decision making is correct here.
So you're going back to shoot that because we're taping next week and you're not going to be available.
I will not be available.
So how many more shooting days do you have on this?
I think about 8.
Wow, gosh.
I'm in a lot of scenes.
And
it's really crazy.
Are you good memorizing the lines?
Good enough. Yeah,
No.
that's not my issue.
That's not your problem.
No.
The acting is
The
okay.
acting is not so good.
Yeah,
That's more your issue.
No, I saw some footage, and I would say it was about 85% of what I thought I was putting out there came out.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's a higher percentage than I was worried about.
Yeah.
So I think I'm past the shame line, and we'll see if I can get to the good line.
Josh, I feel like Josh Robert Thompson, we should do something. I wish I had money to fund your project.
Oh, boy. What
Big
a ball
believer in
tickle.
you.
What a long ball tickle that was.
Josh, we should really do. I wish I had money for that. But
I wish I could just fund you and you could go be creative because you're so good.
I'm sitting on
He's never
gold
said
over
that
here.
to me. He's never said
Wow.
anything like that.
Well, you're off making movies
Nothing
now with
even
85%.
remotely like that to me.
Who's
He's
gonna
never
do-
showed an ounce of support.
So
for
sad. Unbelievable.
Who's gonna do the Thought Spiral podcast? You're gonna do it there from the set.
We did it. We did one from the hotel room last time we were down.
Oh,
there.
so you're gonna continue with it.
Yeah.
Well,
Wow, that was
So yeah, we
ominous. So you're gonna
we
keep that
started
going?
shooting before the holidays.
uh-huh.
Then I had surgery, and then we're going.
So you're gonna keep that show going then?
You're gonna
You
do
guys
that?
want to? You
The-
sure
the
you want to
thoughts-
keep doing that?
So they liked you?
Huh?
And what
Is it popular?
I
Yeah.
I didn't mean to diminish
Sorry,
the Thought
Mom.
Spiral
Sorry, Mom.
podcast. Well, and how about you, Josh Robert Thompson?
I'll just be looking for work. No, I'll be back at Family Guy. I started my, I think, 8th season.
I mean, how exciting. That really is exciting.
I'm really honored to be on that show, and they keep having me back, so I must be doing something right.
And, you joke about scale and all this kind of thing, but the truth is, if I told you, hey, listen, if you give me $5,000, I can have you as a regular on Family Guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd go, all right.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? I'm saying
Yeah.
it's worth it regardless of the compensation.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I'd like to
the
make
novelty
a
might
little
have worn off.
Yeah, like at the beginning, you're like, "Hey, look at me!"
Yeah, you're
I
right.
can always tell the young actors online when they're posting nonstop. Here I am in the studio, another great day working on Looney Tunes.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I give that about 2 years.
Right.
I don't want to see it. I'm not working at all. And then you don't want to post anything. But yeah, no, it's great. I love that. And I'm
Year
gonna,
5, they let you say your name.
Yeah, by the 8th season. But I reached out to Craig Ferguson recently. This is kind of a nice way to start the year. I just decided to reach out to him and sort of repaired that bridge.
Oh, that's good.
Because I really do miss performing with him or just having him as a friend. And so that kind of changed everything for me. That was a pretty big deal. That was the biggest win I think of last year for me, or the nicest thing that happened was repairing that relationship. So.
And I think you've done his show. He does a radio show still, or
That's gone.
Okay, but you did some stuff with him.
I was on there a lot,
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun doing that. That was on Sirius XM. I would love to have my own radio show. So if you guys can make that happen, I'm sure Jay Elvis has some connections.
We can do a play radio show in a radio studio.
Oh, can I just come here once a week and do my own fake show?
I would support that.
I'd pay for it. If I had the money, I would get you your radio show.
That's a great idea, JRT. And if I had any money, I was 2 weeks. I was out of the country. I got nothing.
Josh is not available next week. We have Tom Arnold coming in.
You what? I actually know Tom Arnold. Why didn't you wait for me?
Because we want to get him on right away.
All right.
But
Tom's got all the Trump conspiracies.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got all the tapes.
So if you want to come sit in on that, you can. I have the feeling maybe that he'll be rescheduling. I don't know why, just because maybe it's hard to kind of pin him down.
Well, tell him I'm not going to be here, so he'll reschedule.
Honestly, I would love if he does. It would be a nice little the way the universe all works out. I don't know if you know this. I'll leave with this. Just to mention, your voice is heard on every episode of our podcast. Every single one. Either Schwarzenegger, which I think is heard literally on everyone, and then Morgan Freeman. Not initially, we ran a lot of it. Now it runs occasionally.
Yeah, well.
But
now that he's a pariah, it's less appealing.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that.
I'm fine. Those charges were cleared.
Yeah, you did rebuild your name.
I did. And Kevin Spacey's out there giving pizzas to paparazzi, and he'll be fine, making funny videos and stuff on YouTube.
I feel as though Kevin Spacey is not going to be fine. You will be fine.
Oh, I'm sorry. You think that I'm not going to be fine. Well, that's really cute, Mark. I love your little show, by the way, with the hyphen in the name. That's great. I can't find it.
Well, there you go.
I don't think that he can tunnel his way back, Kevin Spacey, where I think Morgan Freeman did.
Well, I don't know. I don't really know what happened with Kevin Spacey. I'm not here to defend Kevin Spacey, but
you, Morgan, you had a lot more goodwill equity.
Oh, I did. Listen, who wouldn't want to tussle with my niece, Black Anaconda? My niece? Wait a minute. Damn, I was dancing around that shit. Oh. There was nobody in that car, officer, when I got in that accident and ruined my hand.
Oh,
don't let this get back to him.
God,
because then I'm in trouble.
Too good.
When he passes away, which will probably never happen because he is immortal.
Yeah.
I've already had people say, "Get ready, we're going to have you do some things.
We need you to do Easy Reader."
Right. So part of me goes, "Hurry up," but then the other person is like, "I don't want him to go."
Yeah, you don't want to root for the death of.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I've done.
Well, he does Trump, so.
Wow.
I heard that. No golden ladder to the moon for you. J. Elvis, very bad actor. The worst.
Josh Robert Thompson.
Yeah.
The website is thejrtshow.com.
That's it. Your one-stop shop.
And you actually have merch there.
I will.
Oh. And you actually will have merch
I am
there.
going to have merch. Yeah, for the lots of people, for the preacher, they want T-shirts, they want those candles with the Apostle BG on it.
They say they do.
They say they do. Yeah. They also say, hey, can't wait for another show. I'll totally contribute to the PayPal. Money never comes in.
I'm coming to your show this week. Yeah.
We can't wait for a new one. Keep making more. I didn't see that.
Aren't you doing a live Apostle BG or not?
Yeah, I'm doing live shows on YouTube.
No, but I mean like a live event.
Yeah, it's leading up to probably May. In May, I'll be doing a live show.
I adore you. I hope you'll come back and visit us soon.
I will.
J. Elvis Weinstein.
Thank you.
I am...
Here's your chance.
I think you're...
Neat.
I think you're a neat
I think
guy.
you're so very talented, Josh.
Backed up the truck for long ball Sill over here.
Someday.
Salama.
I believe deeply that this is the year that J. Elvis Weinstein comes into his own on this podcast.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. We love having you here, Josh. We consider it a luxury, to be honest. But I also consider it an obligation that you need to work the rest of your life around. So let's
so far so good.
Let's let the first let's let this little project that you're doing, let that be the last time that it really bumps.
I assure you, I'm not lighting a fuse with my career. So.
Okay. All right. JRT, thank you. J. Elvis, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark.
Always fun with Josh Robert Thompson and J. Elvis Weinstein. Thanks for being here. And until next time, bye-bye.
Hi, how are you? It's Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want to thank you for supporting Mark Thompson here on the Edge Radio. Fantastic show with all the jokes and J. Elvis, and all the commentary and the politics and the bullshit. I love it. You can listen to this little pageant on iTunes or Stitcher. The hell is that? Overcast? They're just making all this shit up. Or you can just go to the damn website, edge-show.com.